The views expressed by the host of this podcast are not opinion-based or for entertainment purposes. They are actually facts and truth, no matter if other people like it or not. It is the Detroit sports truth, and nothing can ever stop it from being correct.
Hey there, Detroit sports fanatics, and welcome to episode 199 of the Detroit Sports Truth on Spreaker, the show that actually gets it right instead of just being honest with opinions and crap like that. Please share this podcast on all social media networks. Thanks very much. I'm Taylor Phillips. I'm live from my basement apartment office in the northern outskirts of McBain, Michigan. And with me on Facebook Messenger audio, as always, is my co-host Ed Smith from the state of Georgia. Thanks so much for being on here with me. Ed, we're one episode away from episode 200, the milestone episode.
How about that? It's kind of crazy looking back on it. It's basically a celebration of what we've done so far, and also a beginning of what to continue the next step we can do with this program. But I'm ready and raring to go for tonight, and we'll just hand over what we got to do for tonight and focus on episode 200 at a later time.
All right. Well, first we're going to talk about the Red Wings, how they did over the weekend and on Tuesday night. By the way, Tuesdays and Fridays at 12:30 is our Tuesdays and Fridays are our new nights to broadcast to you the Detroit Sports Truth. After having a bit of a roundtable discussion one-on-one on Facebook Messenger, we have decided to agree to do this on Tuesdays and Fridays from now on. So we're going to do this starting from here forward. So continuing on, secondly, we're going to recap Pistons and then college basketball, including the Karis LeVert injury, Michigan losing to Maryland, and Michigan State smashing Ohio State in Columbus. And then two quick mentions: the Lions cutting C.J. Wilson and the Tigers signing Casey McGee, who was released from the Giants to a minor league deal. And finally, we wrap it up with 5 questions. First off, as usual, we start off with the Red Wings. Well, it was a horrible weekend for the Red Wings, except they got 1 point each in their last 2 road games after Thursday's horrible 6-3 loss to the Pittsburgh Penguins last Thursday. They lose to the Senators 3-2 in a shootout, where they give up another late third period game-tying goal, courtesy of Dion Phaneuf, and the Wings' defense lacking again. You definitely can't blame Mrazek on that one. That's a no-doubter. And then the Wings' offense continuing to mail it in the shootout. They had so many chances to win the game in overtime, and they blew it. They blew them all, and they blew the entire game, and settled for just the 1 point. And then they go to Madison Square Garden and play the New York Rangers, and Jimmy Howard takes his turn and does an unbelievable job, obviously, in a 1-0 overtime loss, where a 2-on-1 developed, and Brendan Smith decided to chase one of those attackers instead of playing up the middle, where, like Michael Stone on Twitter recommended. He's one of the co-hosts on Stoney and Bill, the morning show, the early morning show on 97.1 The Ticket. which is normally a horrible talk show with Bill McAllister, who knows nothing about sports, and Sarah Foraker, who also knows nothing about sports, which makes this morning sports show an abortion. But Michael Stone knows a lot. He does watch the games. I'll give him that. He pointed that out really good, really well. Brendan Smith makes another mistake, just like he usually does. Even though he admittedly has improved defensively and has become the best defenseman on the team lately, you still can't make those inept mistakes. There's still plenty of room for Smith to improve, for improvement for Brendan Smith in terms of making decisions, critical decisions in situations like that. Before the Wings and Rangers went into overtime, the Rangers thought they scored on Jimmy Howard late in the third period with about 5 minutes to go, but Howard clearly tripped a New York Rangers player. I don't remember who that was. His last name was familiar, but Lindbergh, that was his name. Yeah, and the goal was obviously waved off. Howard was kicked in the head accidentally.
Yeah, that's what it was. Jeff Blashill was able to find a way to challenge. I wasn't aware that NHL coaches get to do their challenges.
That's a good one.
Form of fashion. Now, it was an excellent one. They kept them in the game as long as they possibly could. And the replays clearly showed Howard not only was interfered with, but he got kicked right in the friggin' head with it by opposing player's skate. So, right, with that type of contact goes down with a goaltender, which immediately leads to a goal, perhaps you have no choice but to wait it off. So, the refs did a good job of doing what they were supposed to do, and it prolonged that game as much as it could possibly could. Very nice eye by Blashill on that challenge. It shows that he's not being completely useless so far in his first season as a head coach. He's still learning, but that was a very nice gamble that paid off. It seemed like it was going to keep the Wings in it as long as it possibly could. As much crap that Howard has been getting in recent games and recent stretches, much of it is well deserved. He really has stepped up. This is another big step, like me and you talked about. Howard finding ways to build back confidence, because he was essentially at rock bottom in the past 9 or so games, where he was giving up at least 4 goals or more in every single outing. But then after he replaced Mrazek, I think what it was. It might have been. Was it? Yeah, it was. It must have been in the Pittsburgh game. He didn't give up any goals there after replacing Mrazek. Gave up no goals through regulation against New York. Maybe this is the kind of things that needs to happen to build Howard's momentum, but build his confidence first and foremost, so that if and when you do make the playoffs or whatever, or just regular games period down the line leading up to the playoffs, you can feel more confident in Howard, starting games with Howard in net, knowing that you're going to have Mrazek the rest of one of these games, and then once you see Howard's name is on the depth chart as a starter, it's not a guaranteed automatic loss the way it had been the past 2 games. Obviously, Howard can't do it all by himself, clearly. But as long as you're seeing him putting on inspiring, capable, more above average performances like this, makes you feel, okay, now we're back in this system where, obviously, yes, Mrazek is the number 1 goalie, but you're starting to look at what's going on here and say, hey, Howard is showing himself to be a somewhat reliable backup goaltender again, which is what you wanted to see in this type of scenario. So we just have to see where it goes from here. but I was very proud and very pleased to see what Jimmy Howard did against the Rangers.
And then we move on to Tuesday's game, where the Red Wings return home to take on the pitiful Columbus Blue Jackets, led by head coach John Tortorella. And Colin McElhinney takes the net for the CBJ squad against Peter Mrazek. And yet the offense continues to stall again. McElhinney only allowed the shorthanded goal by Riley Sheahan in the second period, after the Columbus Blue Jackets draw first blood in the first period, courtesy of let me look at this here. That was Boone Jenner, his 22nd goal of the season. Wow, 22 goals. That was on even strength. That was late in the first, 18 minutes, 18 seconds into the game. Sheahan's goal was assisted by Alexei Marchenko, his 8th assist on the year. Sheahan's got 8 goals total. And Andreas Athanasiou scored the game-winning shootout goal. Sheahan scored the other shootout goal. The shootout was 2-0. The Wings won that game 2-1. Jeff Blashill finally decided to give Andreas Athanasiou at least a little bit more ice time, like almost 10 minutes through 2 periods, and then Athanasiou got even more ice time. I couldn't quite look that up. I didn't have a chance to look that up. But Athanasiou, as Jeff Blashill pointed out, was incredible. Blashill told the media that he had to find a way to get the offense going, and he said they found a way with Athanasiou helping getting the job done. He got the game-winning shootout goal, as I just mentioned, and the Wings were able to squeeze out that 2-1 victory against the Columbus Blue Jackets. But see, here's one thing: this game should not have gone to overtime at all. The way the even though the Red Wings should have. Even though the Red Wings' offense has been struggling as of late, which is a problem, not an excuse. This game was a chance for the offense to improve. They didn't do it, and also Kyle Quincy played much better defense in that game. Danny DeKeyser couldn't corral the puck or hold it in the offensive zone much in the third period. He didn't get any points, and somehow he was dubbed the third star of the game, which I don't understand at all. I mean,
yeah, it's.
Are you out of your mind?
I would rather use that spot to give it to the guy that might have scored the winning goal in the shootout. That was Athanasiou. Again, the Kaiser, whether it be the Kaiser or Quincy, right? None of those guys really gave you that much, showed you something that warrants getting a star rating of that game. Anything, you can give that to Peter Mrazek. In my opinion, either that one of the two goaltenders for keeping this as low scoring game as possible for one of those stars. it was nice, very nice to see Anthony C's minutes go up. I believe he had over 15 minutes of ice time as opposed to the standard 7, 8, or 9, the minimal. Excuse me, I would say that he had been getting in games past. Maybe Blashill has been reading some of Prashant Heyer's tweets and this and maybe looking at some depth, some charts, possible some analytics from somebody that's letting him know, hey, this kid is giving you some good production on the ice. Why don't you bump up his minutes a little more, see if it can help provide a spark for your offense? Granted, it didn't lead to any, output, quality goal scoring from either team, especially from Detroit tonight. But hey, Anthony C came up big when he needed him to do it the most. He scored the game-winning goal in the shootout. So something like that will hopefully be impressive enough in Blashill's eyes, and might hopefully incline him to keep steadily raising Anthony C's time on the ice. If you give him, instead of 7, 8, 9, or even 10, give him, say, 12, 13, 14, like we saw tonight, 15, just a little, or even a little bit more after that, and see what else he can contribute, because it can't just be Dylan Larkin out there helping spearhead the offense. You got to see guys like him, Larkin, Anthony C, Yurko, Tatar, and of course Nyquist, among others. Notice I'm using what the theme has been for this season: develop your younger talent, groom them into the future faces of the franchise, because Datsuk and Zetterberg aren't going to be there for very long. So you're seeing, I guess you could say, in the ways they're going to do some growing pains, but also showcasing their future potential talent and what they can bring to the table. So you need to see more of it. It could be a little bit of sink or swim, essentially, but hey, you got to prove it. This is the NHL. This is the big leagues. I hate to use a baseball terminology when describing hockey, but this is the big boys. You got to step up and show up or go home. So it'd be interesting to see if Blashill is going to continue giving the young guys more minutes as we get closer down the stretch of regular season.
That is true. As the Red Wings and Columbus Blue Jackets played in overtime, there were two quick whistles which really riled me up. I am not much of a criticizer of the officials, the referees of any sport, especially not hockey, but of all the bad calls that I have seen in my life as a sports television viewer, that quick whistle when Peter Mrazek tried to play the puck, try to make a pass to Pavel Datsyuk on a breakaway, it was whistled down while Mrazek did not nearly hold on to the puck long enough. It was so visually clear as everybody else saw it. Somehow,
that'd be awkward.
Yeah. It was just so stupid for any official to blow that whistle way too quickly. I mean, that just ruins the game for both teams, or something like that. That's just a blatant frozen puck call, which nobody should make. The whistle should not have come at all. Not for any reason. That was such a dumb call that it cost Pavel Datsyuk what would have been a breakaway and maybe a breakaway goal. That the officials, as I saw on TV, pushed Mrazek back into his own net. they should be suspended. I'm not saying they should be fired or anything, but suspend them or fine them. Do some disciplinary action. The second quick whistle was at the other end where the puck was loose and the referee lost sight of it, and the fans got even antsier. I even hit my TV like 8 times and spit at it a couple times. And then I just went on a serious rant on Twitter, as you would read my tweets at DT2Phillips. That I tweeted one time that if the referee lost sight of the puck, I had a conversation with Dave Campbell. What's his Twitter feed here? DWC462. I tweeted to him that that on the second whistle, if the official loses sight of it, he should be skeptical and try to move to try to get a better sight of it before even considering blowing the damn whistle. These idiot referees need to let both teams, not just the Red Wings, but both teams on the ice, play the game. And they didn't do it. This usually does not happen. This never happens twice in an overtime period. For God's sake. It's just extremely baffling that something needs to change. Something has got to give. These mistakes cannot be made again. They shouldn't happen. Every referee should know better.
They should, but again, if you have a commissioner that's not really being as enforcive as he or she probably should be, and I'm looking at you, Gary Bettman, on that one. Then what's giving the referees the incentive to perform better? You know what I mean? If they're not catching heat from the head honcho, what's stopping them from continuing their ways?
I'm not basing it all on their overall performance. It's just the decision making process. It's just making decisions. That was the problem in overtime tonight. They were really good in all regulation tonight. I'll give them that. It was a 1-1 game in regulation. The Red Wings had the Red Wings only got 4 shots on goal in the first period. I'm not sure if I or Prashant ever even tweeted the shot attempts in the first period, like 4 out of something. 4 shots out of something, out of how many shot attempts or whatever. I did not see that from Prashant Iyer. But just 4 shots on goal in the first period is unacceptable. That's all I know from that standpoint. But after overtime, it was the shots on goal differential was even. exactly even at 26. Going back to the 3 stars of the game, Boone Jenner, I understand he scored a goal, but and it's his 22nd of the season, but he just doesn't quite fit into the 3 stars of the game either. But it's not as bad of a decision by the media by choosing him as a star, but as they chose Danny DeKeyser as a star for not getting any points and playing real badly. That's another thing I don't understand. Well, actually, that's the same thing I don't understand. It's just, man. First, the referees mailed two big plays with two quick dumb whistles, stopping the play for nothing, and then the media mailing the 3 stars. But one of the players that did deserve a star was Riley Shahan. He scored the shorthanded goal and one of the shootout goals for the Red Wings. I'll give him that for getting that one right. But Boone Jenner, I'm not so sure about that, but Danny DeKeyser, definitely not. If only there was a way to change that somehow. Otherwise, the media just I'm not really saying that they're lazy or anything, but I'm not sure if the Detroit media is just overcoddling Danny DeKeyser just because he played a bad game or whatever. No, it doesn't work that way. It does not work that way, period. Danny DeKeyser did not deserve a star at all. He couldn't corral the puck or hold it in the offensive zone, and he did not get any points. There was only one assist in that game. That belonged to Alexei Marchenko, not Danny DeKeyser. Alexei Marchenko. If anybody had 0 points tonight, they should not get a star. They should not get a star. This is to earn a star. You must as a non-goalie player, you need to record at least 1 point to get a star. You need to get at least 1 or 2 points to not get a star as well. And I'm not exaggerating either. This is how it's supposed to work. And it worked the wrong way tonight. Almost the entire damn thing. And one way or the other, the Red Wings will take this win, but a lot of things need to improve or change. Not just the officiating, but not just the Wings off, but not just the Red Wings offense, but the media just using a lot of just being so stupid, choosing the 3 stars.
It was just not really a pretty night for multiple parties all around. Good thing out of it, though, at least the Red Wings got the win and victory, so they can look forward to this Stadium Series matchup with the Avs. And by the way, this win tonight gave them a big necessary 2 points. So even though, they got destroyed by Philly last week, they followed it up by basically getting 3 points total at the 3 straight games. So now it gets them out of that wild card spot that they were in, and now has them in sole possession in third place in the Atlantic Division.
Right. Last time I checked, prior to that game, the Red Wings were in fourth place in the Atlantic Division and first place in the wild card standings. Now they're back in third place in the Atlantic Division, as you just mentioned, with 71 points, trailing the Lightning by just 1 point. Lightning with 72 points, the Panthers 75. The Bruins 70, Senators 64. I still think the Red Wings should have beaten the Senators because they were not. The Red Wings should have beaten the Senators in regulation. They had a chance to eliminate the Senators out of playoff contention officially. But the Wings Rangers game, that'll just speak for itself. It was a good. The Rangers were the better team than the Senators were.
Yeah, and this was expected, but I think some props and credit should be given to the Wings for, especially Jimmy Howard, like I mentioned, for giving you as great an effort as they possibly could. Because they could have just rolled over and get blown out by 3 or 4 goals, but they managed to hang tough. And I believe it was Datsuk as well as Larkin had a couple chances to really put one in the back of the net, but they both hit the post both times. So that really wasn't a game Detroit could have had, could have found a way to steal. And now we're talking one more extra point. Now we're talking a tie for second place in the division here. So little things like that. Hockey's a fickle game. It works out that way for sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't. But it's still nice at the end of the day. After that horrific disaster against the Penguins last week, Detroit was able to rebound just a little bit, and now they have 3 straight points, 3 points in their last 3 consecutive games. Keeps them well within that playoff chase, and for now takes them out of that danger wild card spot.
And we'll preview that Stadium Series game against the Avalanche at Coors Field, which begins on Saturday at 8 on NBC, National Broadcast Television. We will preview that on the 200th episode of the Detroit Sports Truth on Friday, starting at 12:30. By the way, the Avalanche right now stand in second place in the wild card standings in the Western Conference with 66 points. In the division, they stand in fifth place in the Central Division, and in the conference, they stand 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th place in the Western Conference. They are hanging by a thread in the Western Conference standings to that 8th playoff spot. Like we mentioned before a couple episodes ago, the Avalanche have played a little better than they have the past 2 or 3 years, especially with head coach Patrick Waugh leading the charge. And stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. And now it sets up in a situation where this is a big game coming up here against the Red Wings. We haven't said that for a while concerning these two teams. It's not that harkens back to the days of their big rivalry from 96 to 2002 and the mini revival in 2008. It's going to be real intriguing, to say the least. Both teams are going to need that win, obviously, in terms of because most importantly, it's 2 big points that goes a long way towards determining your playoff spot. So now, obviously, best case scenario, if you're either team, try to get a point as necessary. So if it goes to overtime, you're already guaranteed a point, regardless. But at the end of the day, only one team can come away with 2 points. So, this is essentially one of the big games left remaining on your schedule because it involved, it's for Detroit's a chance to stay out of the wild card and for Colorado's a chance to get out of the wild card. So I'm looking forward to previewing more of that when we get to the show on Friday night.
Yeah, the milestone show that would be. So, moving on to the Pistons here.
Left sideline, three, and he answers.
They lose 98-86 at Verizon Center to the Washington Wizards since they made those two trades involving Tobias Harris, Donatas Motiejunas, and Marcus Thornton. The Pistons only scored 15 points in the first quarter, and it cost them badly. Tobias Harris scored 21 points from the bench, and then they return home and they lose to the Pelicans again, 111-106. Not nearly enough coverage on Anthony Davis, which is why it's not just Anthony Davis, but they need to cover the guy a lot more. And then they go into Cleveland on Monday night, back-to-back games, and the Cleveland Cavaliers were playing back-to-back games as well. Both teams were. The Pistons come into the Quicken Loans Arena, and they beat the Cleveland Cavaliers 96-88. The Cavaliers scored just 88 points. The Pistons led after each quarter. Evidently, I don't know if they led all game or not, but they led after each quarter by around 8 or 10 points. Somewhere around there, as I look it up. It was 33-28, that was 5. 56-49 halftime at 7. 75-68, and that's 7. Then it was 96-88. So it's almost 8 or 10, probably like 3 to 5 to 7. Or not 3, 5 to 7. 5, 7, 7, 8 were the margins after each chronologically ordered quarter. Stanley Johnson got injured, a right shoulder sprain. He says he was going to be reevaluated the next day on Tuesday, and we've gotten zero word on how Stanley Johnson's reevaluation went. I'm going to look up the Bleacher Report Team Stream app right now.
It'll be one. It seems like the Pistons have been going through their own sort of tough luck / bad luck in recent days and in recent weeks even. And with the Stanley Johnson,
the injuries?
It's probably injuries is one aspect of it. And the Stanley Johnson thing is really like the last thing that they needed at this point in time. So you hope it's not too serious. If he's going to miss a couple of games, okay. As I would rather take that short-term loss over a potential long-term big loss, because you're going to need as many players as you can now coming down the stretch of this season. I guess you can say the one shining spot, so to speak, coming up. That's the start to the second half. No, they haven't had such a good start in terms of the wins or losses column, but really, it's a good thing that Tobias Harris has showcased what he can do. He's been making some good production as we expected to see, but it's really showcased now, even more so, and since its arrival in Detroit. In this game against Cleveland, he had himself he scored 14 points, and then one brief moment. In his past 3 games in Detroit, he scored at least 14 or more points. At 21 against the Wizards, 16 against the Pelicans, and 14 on Monday against the Cavs. He's averaged about 4 or 5 rebounds in all of those games. So he's giving you at least solid to decent production, not just on the boards, and good to great production offensively. It's now at the point where he's starting to work himself into the starting lineup, and it gives you more versatility. It gives you more another weapon, another offensive weapon, so to speak, which is needed in some instances, in some cases with this team. Like you mentioned, how Detroit was able to hold Cleveland under 88 points. That was good defense. Yes, which in turn. I guess you can also say LeBron James did not have himself quite the usual night that we expected to see. He had he had about 8 rebounds, but he didn't have himself quite a good fourth quarter. I think he had quite a few number of turnovers. Ofer, he either didn't make a single shot from 3, or he was over 4 from 3. Had himself about 5 or 6 turnovers. Came up with only 12 points total. Granted, you did see Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving show up with 54 points combined, but when LeBron James is only scoring 12 points, it's not going to be a plus for your team in that game. So, granted, though, much credit must be given to Detroit because it was the back end of a back-to-back game, of 2 back-to-back games here, and they needed this win in more ways than one. This win, in my opinion, is probably, in terms of hyperbole that I'm using this, but after seeing what they've gone through recently, this win might have saved their season, for now at least. They still got work to do. They still got to climb themselves out of this hole, get back up into the echelon of the standings. But seeing the way they perform as a team, as a whole, as a unit, for now, they have definitely saved their season, in my opinion.
Yeah, we also hear that Anthony Tolliver is out 2 to 4 weeks with a right knee sprain. So that's 2 injuries. Marcus Morris collapsing on the court could have been a third, but Marcus Morris got back in the game, and he performed well. He continued to perform well. He worked very well with Tobias Harris. We could see the chemistry blend a little bit between those two in Cleveland. Those two can work together. Also, you got Reggie Jackson still being red hot. Andre Drummond. I think his free throw shooting is starting to improve a bit. Call me crazy, but
he's got ways to go. This is my opinion. I'm not going to celebrate mediocrity. If he gets to say, close to 50%, 60%, then I'll start giving him better props. But you're still going to see teams try to implement the hack and Dre strategy from now on. At this point. And this is the message to, granted, while the NBA might consider changing this rule, it sends you a message to other teams. Please practice and make your free throws. That's all it is. The Pistons still have some work to do in terms of defensively in the paint, because I've noticed, especially it was clearly evident against Washington, they needed some help badly because they were just getting chewed alive in that paint, whether it been Gortat or John Wall getting through, which in turn set things up like Otto Porter from outside. They're already having trouble with bad perimeter defense. The last thing they need is to start falling apart defensively inside in the paint, because now it just makes things too easy for opponents to score on you. Granted, you held Washington under 100, but it was barely. But you couldn't get anything going to yourself offensively, so you still lost that one. Then you let Anthony Davis, for the love of God, go off on you. But that was another one. The usual trend of 100 points or more being allowed. It was very refreshing to see that well below that mark, that threshold this time around. Again, like you mentioned, 88 points allowed to a Cleveland Cavalier team that has LeBron James, Kevin Love, and Kyrie Irving. That in and of itself is an accomplishment, no matter how you look at it. So maybe this could, like I said, this could be used as that spark to help them give them momentum. And they got a little bit of an easier schedule, so to speak, coming up, at least for the next 2 games. That gets a little bit tougher with 2 games after that. But in terms of their schedule, it's not too daunting. But they can't afford to go on any more losing streaks now. It's about, 25 games left in the regular season. They're only 2 games out of the 8th spot. Chicago has fallen mightily. I won't be surprised if you see more teams fall quicker in the standings. Like Miami. Yeah, Miami, they're currently the 3rd seed right now. But, you don't know when Chris Bosh will be back. You could see them, stumble a couple spots or two. Even a team like Atlanta, they're now in the 6th spot. So if they're not careful, they could see themselves falling out of potential playoff spot also. So the door is still open there for the Pistons. It's just an issue of, seeing more Tobias Harris getting entwined and gelling with this new environment, and really the defense as a whole making improvement. I'm sure they were expecting an upgrade with possibly getting Montejunas, as we're about to describe. It just unfortunately didn't work out that way.
All right, let's talk about the voided trade involving Donatas Montejunas from the Houston Rockets. It also involved Marcus Thornton, but Montejunas failed his physical since he had a back injury. He had to go to New York and try to get it restructured and things like that. But he failed his physical, which means the Pistons have to void the trade. But Marcus Thornton is staying with the Pistons, and that trade sends Montejunas back to the Houston Rockets. But I think that brings Joel Anthony back to the Pistons, doesn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong here.
I believe that does. I think Anthony was going to be sent to Philly as part of that 3-team deal, but now, of course, with the trade being voided, Anthony doesn't worry about going anywhere. So, especially now, right, the Pistons, they're still going to need some type of forward in that spot where Montejunas is going to be. So, this is where, or some type of big man in that role. So that's where Joel Anthony's safe job comes into play now. Very unfortunate, very troubling. It was just part of this whole entire crappy weekend for not just Pistons but Red Wings as well. Seems like anything that could go wrong did go wrong. Losing streaks, bad defense, and now this news about this trade that could have been beneficial not just for the Pistons but for all parties involved, essentially being voided. It essentially forced you to go into Cleveland 10 players deep, and which makes this win even more impressive because only 6 Piston players scored throughout the whole game, and you still found a way to win. But they can't keep that up. They got to keep. You're gonna need more production from your bench as we get closer and closer to playoff time. You were hoping with this, if the deal with Montejunas had gone down, you were going to see the second unit get a better upgrade. Now that the trade has been voided, you got to find some way to get better production from your bench. That means we still have to suffer through the likes of Steve Blake leading the second unit, but they got to figure something out to get more points from the bench because you can't just rely on the starters all the time. You need some backup from your bench every now and then to not only keep you in games and maintain good leads, but also steal you some wins every once in a while. So if it boils down to what can the Pistons do? How can they make lemons? How can they make lemonade out of the lemons they've been given at this point?
That's a very good question. By the way, I love lemonade, but how can the Pistons make it? It's still kind of tough if they don't play good enough defense the way they almost did in Cleveland. Cavaliers were shooting very poorly. There were still plenty of wide open shots allowed, but most of them did not go in. LeBron James missed a lot of shots in Cleveland on Monday. Pistons took full advantage of that, total advantage of that, and won 96-88. So both the Pistons and Red Wings are actually coming off a win each. Pistons beating the Cavaliers, and then the Red Wings beating the Columbus Blue Jackets. The state of Michigan beating the state of Ohio. Of all subjects.
After an extremely crappy weekend, it was desperately needed. So good on both teams to make it up for it in some regard.
Yeah, absolutely. Pistons still made one trade official. They got Tobias Harris, which was key. It sent Brandon Jennings and Ersan Ilyasova back to the Orlando Magic. Those two players could have been key as well, but it was a fair trade. But the Pistons, I think both the Pistons and Magic won both sides of the trade.
Oh, there was a definite trade down about both deals. The Pistons, you're getting what you're seeing now in Harris, a versatile big who can not only play the 4, also play the 3 too, can give you good scoring off the bench or in the starting lineup, and it also gives you a chance to get some cap space as well as get rid of 2 aspiring contracts. And same thing conversely for Orlando. Yes, they're getting 2 contracts. Yes, they gave up a building block that they were trying to use to replace Dwight Howard. But in return, you're going to get some cap space on your own because you're getting 2 expiring contracts in the form of Jennings and Ilyasova. Leaves you open some space to see what you can do this summer in the off season as well. So yeah, that was a deal that both teams would greatly benefit from.
So that clears up both the Red Wings and Pistons. We transition now to college basketball.
For 3, yes, sir!
Michigan loses to then number 6 Maryland, the Terrapins, 86-82 early Sunday afternoon. They committed too many turnovers and still gave it a good battle. They had the lead at least a few times, but Maryland took advantage of those mistakes and managed to survive a scare by the Michigan Wolverines, who obviously made the matchup more interesting. Going into that game, Michigan upset Purdue, and Maryland was upset by Minnesota. All those things, they made this whole game look very interesting. But Michigan in the first half was down by as many as 16 points. They scratched and clawed their way back into the game and made it close, but Maryland escaped.
Yeah, it's really, this was a game, if in terms of looking at it on paper, Michigan really wasn't expected to win, but to see them make it as close as they possibly could, you can't help but be proud of their effort at least. I'm not really one for moral victories. I think that's a little bit cheap, but in this instance, I think it warrants that type of thing. You've seen guys like Mark Donal, for once, finally had a productive game. I don't know how long. Derek Walton was trying to make something happen. Duncan Robinson got 9 rebounds for you, which was key because it shows that Michigan isn't too much of a it's not too much of a liability in terms of getting production in the paint and getting some rebounds. But just a tad bit too many mistakes late. You just can't make it against a team. You can't make those type of mistakes against a good team like Maryland. Expect to pull through and win unless Maryland start making mistakes of their own, and they didn't. They were coached to capitalize on mistakes and not make mistakes of their own. And they proved it again, especially from the home crowd. So, but still, very valiant effort by the Wolverines. It can't be too disappointing. It's going to be disappointing for sure because this was a close game, one you will always like to win those type of games. But still, the line going into this was Maryland -10. Maryland was probably expected to win this one right away. It looked like it was going to be that way for a while, but Michigan, they dug their heels in, stood their ground, cut it to a 5-point game by halftime, and made it as close as they could by the end. So they really don't have anything too much to be disappointed and ashamed of, other than the fact that they didn't get the win. But still, a very fine performance by this team overall, in my opinion, I would think.
They play Northwestern on Wednesday. Before I get to that, Pistons play the 76ers on the same night at 7:30 at the Palace of Auburn Hills. Pistons should be able to beat the 76ers in some way, shape, or form, but the Wolverines play the Northwestern Wildcats. If the Wolverines keep playing the way they did against Maryland, against Northwestern, they should be able to handle the Wildcats well at Chrysler Center. That's at 7:00, and that is on BTN. So, want to give out a quick preview of the Northwestern Wildcats?
Basically, this is a chance for Michigan to lick their wounds. They're back at home. They're still, in terms of what their hopes for the tournament, they're not necessarily on the bubble, but they still have some work to do. 19-9 is a good record, but you want to make yourself as assured as possible, because even sometimes teams with those type of records, they still find themselves left out in the cold. So you only got a few games left in this year's schedule, so you got to finish strong as much as you possibly can. Getting a couple wins here against teams that you're more than likely favored against, that goes a long way as well. I'm going to see if Mark Donnell can keep up his consistency, keep up his hot streak, essentially, that he had coming off the Maryland game. I want to see more of Derek Walton, what he can provide. He needs to get off the better hot start as well. The whole team in general. I want to see better ball movement, because I keep thinking back to that disaster of a game against Michigan State. They couldn't move the ball well, and they're already lacking presence inside the paint was greatly exposed. But if they can monitor that by showcasing good zone pressure from the 1-3-1 early on, as well as moving the ball around and setting yourself up for high-quality shots instead of just forcing it late in the shot clock, more oftentimes than not, it's going to be greatly beneficial to your effort, to your cause, and could lead you to possibly walking out with a win. So I expect Michigan to, it'll be possibly slightly closer than the odds would have it, but in the end, I expect Michigan to pull this one out. It's a point in the season where Michigan, especially now if you look at the standings, they're kind of essentially out of the Big Ten title race, but they can still find themselves spot to make the national tournament in March. What they got to do is just have a strong finish to the regular season as possible and win a couple of games, or even 3 in the conference tournament. Get to the semifinal, and you most likely have assured yourself a spot in the big dance.
And speaking of which,
Valentine for the win!
The Michigan State Spartans, the now 6th-ranked team, absolutely crushed the Ohio State Buckeyes 81-62 in Columbus. They were just raining threes all over the court.
I love it!
And they just destroyed them. Ed, do you have analysis on that?
Just what else can you say? I mean, what you just described, it speaks for itself. Michigan State, they have done a tremendous job of just getting everyone involved as possible, whether it be Denzel Valentine, whether it be Brent Forbes, whether it be Costello, whether it be Donata Davis, offensively and defensively as well. It's showcased by whether they're sharing the ball, moving around it exponentially well, which of course is going to turn into great open looks from downtown. And you saw it. It was evident in the score. A 19-point victory is impressive enough, but to do it on the road, because Columbus is, again, Value City Arena has been quite beneficially helpful to the to Ohio State in recent years more often than not. In my opinion, it's a bit of a tough place to play for the Big Ten schedule. So to see the Spartans coming here and just absolutely roll on Ohio State the way they did, mightily impressive. Shows you this team is definitely for real in terms of them making a big run down the stretch. Like I said, this was a combined team effort. You know, you got your usual Denzel Valentine, 17 points, 8 assists. Costello contributed as well. The other senior was 16. Brent Forbes has been an absolute on discovery, and more often than not, more ways than one. Hit 7 more threes tonight to help him garner his 27 points total. If the way he's playing, let me see if this kid is a senior or not, or a junior, because he's got himself as a future in terms. Yeah, he is a senior, so I would keep an eye on Brent Forbes. The way he keeps playing, I would keep an eye on this summer's NBA draft. You never know what team could be in need of a possible behind the arc threat. You know, a sharpshooter that could give you some good points off the bench. You know, so he could be a potential steal. I would say somewhere in the second round. Now, if he goes undrafted, he could still be a great pickup for anybody that's in need of a good shooting guard off the bench. So Forbes is proving his worth for sure in this senior. And again, that's another senior. You've got 3 senior leaders here: Forbes, Costello, and of course Valentine. That's been the key right here as to why Michigan State's performed so well this year, and is looking prime for yet another deep run within the tournament. Because it would be nice to this. You know, if you're a fan, you would like to see them garner as much accolades and awards as possible, whether it be conference championships, conference tournament titles. But at the end of the day, especially when you have a coach Tom Izzo, essentially the only goal, and of course the main goal, is getting another national championship banner hung from the Izzone, essentially. So if you can get it done this year, hats off to you in that regard. But still got some other teams out there. They're quite as good, if not better, than what Michigan State is right now. So it won't be an easy road for the Spartans, to say the least.
Spartans are off until Sunday when they play Penn State at home at noon. They should be able to handle those guys on BTN. The Nittany Lions, 14-13. Spartans are still going to be too much. They're 23-5 overall. 4th in the Big Ten. Nittany Lions, 11th in the Big Ten. So we'll preview that on episode number 200. As well as Michigan at Wisconsin at 6 o'clock. That's going to be on BTN as well, I think. Yes, it is. So with that, so Michigan and Michigan State are both covered here. Let me see here. Yeah, lost Ed there. Damn phone. But great analysis by Ed Smith on Brent Forbes being NBA draft bound and stuff like that. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think? Just leave a comment on episode 199 of the Detroit Sports Truth. I have to turn my Wi-Fi off on my phone here. So anyway, as I wait here,
The person you're trying to call.
shut up! Hey, Jeff Moss, here's another drop for you. My connection's working very well.
The person you're trying to.
Now, why do you get the hell out of here? And another drop. Just a second here. I think Ed Smith is having trouble with his Wi-Fi for some reason. We're going to take a 5-minute break here, but we'll be back.
The person you're trying to call.
You know, you're a bitch. You stupid answering machine. How in the hell am I going to do my show? Oh. Sorry about that, Ed.
That's okay. I think it was more so of miscommunication on my end. There was a brief wind outside, and for a moment it knocked out the power in my apartment, which in turn, of course, caused the router of my Wi-Fi to go out for a brief moment. So apologize for folks for that one on my end. Nothing wrong with what Taylor did. Just slight weather issue causing up a brief disturbance. That's all.
All right, so green analysis on Bryn Forbes being NBA draft bound and all that stuff. So we move on to the Lions. Actually,
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
they cut another defensive player. That is defensive tackle C.J. Wilson. And that creates $2.3 million in cap space extra. So the Lions now need another player on defense to fill the roster.
Yeah, it's, in a way, like I said, it's you're either glass half empty or half full on this. You could see it as them, okay, we're saving up money because we're making all these moves for cap space because we're trying to go after somebody off season. Or again, like I said, it is more so glass half full. You could say now we're just making some moves so that we can go younger, develop our own players from scratch from the draft. So if you're an optimist, it can be slightly confusing to describe this, but I'm actually fine with these moves because, like I said, either you're going to go after somebody big in the offseason or you're just going to essentially reload your own talent on the defensive side of things through the draft. Like I said, a Miles Jack, if possible, he could fall to your lap at 16. You can get yourself a defensive lineman, whether it be Deron Reed or Robert Nkemdiche, any of that nature. So really, it's going to be this offseason should be focused on trying to replenish and make your front seven a weapon again.
Yeah, I believe so. In terms of Robert Nkemdiche, again, the Lions can trade up for him because, again, he's still going to be in the top 15, and the Lions are still at 16. They have the option to switch for Nkemdiche somewhere. So with that out of the way, moving on to the Tigers.
That one is long gone.
The Tigers signed third baseman Casey McGee, who was released from the Giants, to a minor league deal with an invite to spring training. The Tigers already have Nick Castellanos at third base and Mike Aviles, the utility infielder. I think we may be looking at a new at a backup third baseman. Sorry to spoil one of the 5 questions, but
yeah, it's needed. Because like I said, you can always wouldn't mind yourself having some form of depth in almost all of your spots. There's certain spots, positions that you don't necessarily need, but within your that spot is needed.
Yeah, that spot is needed. All right. That's pretty much it for the Tigers. We've covered all the teams, so it looks like it is time for 5 questions.
Let them rip.
It's time for 5 questions with Taylor the Gator Phillips.
Question number 1. Did Jeff Blashill finally get the message that Andreas Athanasiou should get more ice time in?
You would be optimistic to say yes, considering, like you said, as opposed to the usual 8 or 9 minutes that we're used to seeing that, he got about 15 or so. I kind of made it as a joke, but I'm kind of serious though. Like if he saw some of Prashant Bayer's tweets, or somebody advised him to see his tweets, then that was greatly beneficial. So I hope Blashill keeps it up. I hope he recognizes the potential of what Athanasiou can do and what he can bring, especially what he did win you the game literally against the Blue Jackets. So I hope to see the young man get more time on the ice, because he's going to be one of your guys, unless you make some type of big deal, that you're going to be leaning forward on in the near future.
Next question.
Question number 2. Can Casey McGee make it back to the majors?
It'll be interesting to see. It's his splits. I gotta be honest. Not very impressed, whether it be in his slugging or his OPS. Compared to, like, say, in his younger years when he was with the Pirates or the Yankees. He's got ways to go. Like I said, it always doesn't hurt to have another person there for depth. But if he can't bring up his hitting, then I don't see his chances of getting up back to the majors to be highly likely. It's also a matter of him. It's got to be a matter of him fixing his hitting. That's for sure.
Next question.
Question number 3. How many defensive changes do the Lions need to make now since C.J. Wilson was cut?
Well, it basically just expands to you just need, as opposed to looking for one guy on the defensive line, now you got to look for just 2. And to me, you're just looking for one guy on the linebacker spot. So really, it doesn't necessarily make it too drastic, but I do agree the Lions need to be try to fix as many holes as they can defensively in this offseason.
Next question.
Question number 4. How impressed are you with Tobias Harris overall?
Really liking what he's bringing to the lineup. He can give you some good rebounds on defensive end. He's definitely showing you his good versatility on the offensive side of things. He can be a good punch, 1-2 punch at the 3 with Marcus Morris, or he can give you some good needed help in the front court with Drummond. So it's a win-win either way. I hope he keeps it up. And again, this is a young player. There's a thing, so you need to know your Taylor. Like most of these guys that the Pistons have, their core group, they got 7 or guys 26 years or younger. So this is a team. If they can get things right mentally together, we can all see them coming into their prime together at the same time, and that's really a tantalizing thing to potentially dream about if you're a Pistons fan.
Next question.
Finally, question number 5. Could Karis LeVert actually have a chance to return to action late in the season for the Michigan Wolverines?
I really don't think so. I think if you're John Beilein at this point, long term, making sure Karis has as productive of a basketball career as he could possibly have at this point. You don't want to risk it now for a needless short-term gain.
We forgot to get to that. Karis LeVert may be out for the rest of the season with his leg injury, but head coach John Beilein says in an article that he's going, according to a source, he's going to give LeVert every opportunity, quote unquote, to return to action. How do you feel about that?
That's considerate on Beilein's part. That's how that speaks well on Coach Beilein's character. But really, if I was coach, I would say, listen, Karis, this is, you were projected to be a lottery pick last year. Came in because you wanted to help us out. I appreciate that. Things just haven't been working out. Take the rest of the year off. Get back as much health as you possibly can, and then go earn your living in the NBA. That's what I would suggest as much as you can, because seeing you keep getting hurt like this is going to turn off some teams on you, and I don't want this. Because what happens if I bring you back and then you get hurt again? Now your draft stock is totally going to plummet now. So if I'm Beilein, I would actually advise Karis, no need to come back. You're risking a short-term goal. You're risking a long-term prognosis for a meaningless short-term goal. So sit out. I appreciate all that you did for us here at Michigan, but it's time for you to go and earn your living and make as much out you can out of your basketball career in the NBA, because it's a bit tough for me to say, tough to say overall, but I think we're starting to see Karis LeVert is showing to be a bit injury prone in some instances. So you don't know how much of a basketball career he can have at this point. So the best advice for now, just sit out the rest of the year, go pro, earn your money in the NBA as long as you can.
All right, and for all the listeners and fans out there, if you want to answer those questions, just replay the episode and answer them in the comment bank below this episode. And we lost Ed again. I was going to tell him goodbye before wrapping this up. So sick of this.
Yeah, again, my deepest apologies, Taylor. I don't know what the hell's going on with the weather outside. It's knocking out the power all throughout my house. But at least we managed to catch the tail end of things, right?
Yeah, we're actually done because we're finished with everything. So that wraps up Now then, that wraps up episode 199 of the Detroit Sports Truth. Ed, thanks so much again for your help. I'll talk to you Thursday at 12:30 for the 200th episode of the Detroit Sports Truth.
Looking forward to it, Taylor, and hopefully we won't be dealing with as many issues then as we were currently tonight. But things happen for a reason, and I'm sure everything will be all cleared up by then. So, thanks again, Taylor. See you Friday night.
All right, Friday night at 12:30. It is right. We'll talk to you guys then. So, for Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips. If there's anything you fans want more of or less of on our podcast, please let us know and comment in our episode. We'll talk to you Friday night at 12:30 on episode 200 of the Detroit Sports Truth. TTFN, ta-ta for now.
Bon appetit.